I'll do it tomorrow. There is a sentence that quietly ruins a lot of lives. I'll do it tomorrow. Not now, not tonight, not while I feel like this. Tomorrow. It sounds harmless, responsible even. Like you are not refusing, just postponing. But that is exactly why it is dangerous. Because most procrastination does not sound dramatic. It sounds reasonable. I need a better mood. I need a clearer head. I need more time. I just need one more day. And somehow, that one day keeps moving. Tomorrow becomes later. Later becomes next week. And then one day you look at your life and realize something uncomfortable. A lot of important things did not get rejected. They got delayed. Again and again and again. That is what makes this pattern so hard to notice. You are not saying no. You are saying not yet. But repeated not yet can do almost the same damage as no. Because the task stays open. The guilt stays open. The pressure stays open. And your mind keeps carrying it. That is why procrastination feels heavier than the task itself. You are not only avoiding work, you are living beside unfinished work. And unfinished work is tiring. That is what this episode is about. Not laziness, not bad character, but the quiet mental system behind one very common sentence. I'll do it tomorrow.
LifeBug 0.3. Tomorrow keeps borrowing your life. Most people think procrastination is a time management problem. Often it is not. It is a relief problem. You delay the task because doing it now feels uncomfortable. Maybe it feels boring. Maybe it feels confusing. Maybe it brings up fear. Fear of effort, fear of failure, fear of not doing it well. So your brain looks for a fast solution. Not a good long-term solution. A fast emotional solution. And the fastest one is often this. Not now. Tomorrow. That sentence gives instant relief. The pressure drops for a moment. You feel lighter for a moment. That is why it works. Not because it solves anything, because it changes how you feel for a few minutes. That is the trap. You're not choosing between doing the task and not doing the task. You're choosing between present discomfort and present relief. And your brain is heavily biased toward present relief. That is why tomorrow feels so attractive. Tomorrow is imagined. Tomorrow is clean. Tomorrow is energetic. Tomorrow has more discipline. Tomorrow is not carrying the emotional weight of now. But tomorrow is just another version of you. And when tomorrow becomes today, the discomfort returns. So the same solution appears again. Later, tonight, this weekend, tomorrow. That is why procrastination repeats. Not because you forgot what matters, because the task keeps arriving with the same emotional cost. There's another reason this gets worse. Each delay makes the task heavier. The longer you avoid it, the more meaning you attach to it. Now it's not just an email, it's the email you've been avoiding. Not just a workout, the workout you keep failing to start. Not just a project, the project hanging over your life. So delay creates extra weight. Then that extra weight makes the task feel even worse, and then the brain wants even more relief. That is the loop. Avoidance gives relief. Relief rewards avoidance. Avoidance increases guilt. Guilt increases resistance. Resistance creates another delay. This is why procrastination can feel irrational, even when you understand it. You know delaying is making things worse, but in the moment, your brain is not trying to improve your future. It's trying to improve your next 5 minutes. That is why people who procrastinate often still care deeply. Sometimes they care too much. The task matters, so the emotional charge is higher. And when the emotional charge is higher, avoidance becomes more tempting. This is also why saying, just be more disciplined is often too shallow, because the real problem is not only the calendar, it's the emotional friction attached to starting. And if you don't deal with that friction, tomorrow keeps borrowing your life. Quietly, one delay at a time.
LifePatch 0.31. Make tomorrow smaller. The first patch is simple. Stop giving tomorrow full-sized responsibilities. When a task feels too big, too vague, or too emotionally loaded, tomorrow becomes attractive. So shrink the task before you delay it. Not finish the project. Open the document. Not clean the whole room. Clear one surface. Not fix your entire life. Send one message. This matters because procrastination grows when the mind sees a large emotional wall. It weakens when the mind sees a small next action. A smaller task does not only save time, it lowers emotional resistance. That is why this question helps. What is the smallest, honest version of this task I can do today? Not the ideal version, not the impressive version, the smallest, honest version. 5 minutes of notes, 1 paragraph, 1 dish, 1 bill, 1 step. The goal is not to trick yourself. The goal is to remove the lie that everything must begin at full intensity, because that lie feeds delay. Small starts matter because they change the relationship between you and the task. The task stops looking like a mountain. It becomes a doorway. And doorways are easier to walk through than walls. LifePatch 0.32. Treat procrastination like mood repair. The second patch is deeper. When you want to delay something, ask a better question. What feeling am I trying not to feel right now? That question is powerful, because procrastination is often an emotional escape before it is a scheduling problem. Maybe the task feels boring. Maybe it feels unclear. Maybe it makes you feel inadequate. Maybe you are afraid of seeing your actual level. If you do not name the feeling, you keep blaming the task. But often the task is not the whole problem. The emotional reaction is. So when delay shows up, pause for a moment. Not a long, dramatic pause, a real one. And say, "This feels uncomfortable." Fine. What kind of uncomfortable is it? Heavy? Embarrassing? Boring? Anxious? Once you name it, the task becomes less mysterious. And when it becomes less mysterious, it becomes easier to start. Because now you are not fighting a giant fog. You are dealing with one known friction. That makes a difference. You do not need to feel perfect before you begin. You only need to stop turning an unnamed feeling into a postponed life. LifePatch 0.33. Decide before the mood arrives. The third patch is structural. Do not wait until the moment of resistance to decide what you will do. That is too late. Because when the mood arrives, your brain will argue for comfort. So decide earlier. Decide while you are clear. What time will you start? What is the first step? What will count as enough for today? Where will you sit? What will be off limits for the first 10 minutes? These small decisions matter because they reduce the number of negotiations your future self has to survive. And procrastination loves negotiation. Maybe later, maybe after food, maybe after one video, maybe when I feel more ready. So build fewer openings for that conversation. Set the file out. Write the first sentence starter. Leave the notebook on the desk. Put the phone away. Choose the time in advance. This is not about controlling every second. It is about making action easier than avoidance. Because if tomorrow requires too many fresh decisions, tomorrow will usually collapse into the same old pattern. A good plan is not one that looks perfect on paper. A good plan is one that still works when your mood is weak. That is the standard, Not ideal conditions, real conditions.
Start before you feel ready. That is the pattern. Procrastination keeps winning when tomorrow looks easier, the feeling stays unnamed, and the task stays too big. So if you keep saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," do not begin with shame. Begin with honesty. What am I avoiding feeling? What is the smallest honest step? What decision can I make now so tomorrow has less room to escape? Those questions are better than guilt. Because procrastination is not solved by yelling at yourself. It is solved by making action less threatening and delay less automatic. That is the real shift. Make tomorrow smaller. Treat procrastination like mood repair. Decide before the mood arrives. Do that often enough and something changes. Tomorrow stops feeling magical. Today stops feeling impossible. And your life begins to move again. Not all at once, one honest start at a time.